Coming up on today's show, shuffles, shutdowns, and delays. Oh my. What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the What's Good Games podcast, your source for video game news, commentary, analysis, and funny stuff every Friday. I am one of your hosts, Andrea Renee, joined by the blonde wonder, who's maybe not so blonde right now, Miss Brittany Brombacher.
Oh, hello! You called me out. Yeah, I was talking to one Christine Steimer who is, contemplating doing something different with her hair, and it inspired me. Got a wild hair at my ass, and here I am, bringing the 2000s back, early 2000s.
If you are watching at youtube.com/whatsgoodgames, do not adjust the color of your television, ladies and gentlemen. Brittany's hair is indeed that dark. I love it. I think it looks amazing. It's very kind of like Morticia.
Ooh,
like Addams Family vibes, kind of.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun. It's something different. As you both know, I used to have like black and blonde in my hair for a very long time, and then red, and then I added a lot of red. So I'm not gonna go all balls to the walls, but I'm just gonna dabble.
What, you don't want to join me, and we could be like both red?
I mean, red hair is really hard to get out, and I learned that the hard way.
Yes, it is. Yeah. There's a reason why I've never changed my hair color. It is what it is. The only way that it's going to change is if I go fully gray, which I'm well on my way. Anyway, Mrs. Rihanna Manuel-Peña is here as well.
Hello.
Good to see you as well. We have to give you a big congratulations. Everybody, a round of applause. The Spawnies were fantastic. If y'all missed it, please go check out the VOD over at twitch.tv/SpawnOnMe. You can find it in Rihanna's channels, in Khalif Adams' channels. You guys crushed it. How do you feel?
Thank you.
Crushed it.
It was such a great experience, and there was so much energy in the chat, which helped a lot because, it's always a nervous thing putting something out into the world when you've worked on it very much in secret. And it was wonderful. We had some really great collaborators this year. Shout out to Xbox, Zynga's Black ERG, and also the team over at Project Amplify for supporting, and of course, Twitch for sponsoring again this year. It was really, really wonderful. And it was so great filming over at the Spare Bedroom Studios with Kind of Funny. They are incredible hosts. So thank you for letting us play in your bedroom and getting a show done, because it was way, way prettier this year than last year for sure.
You did such a phenomenal job. And like Cod did it too, but I heard his slander about about chocolate chip cookies and oatmeal raisin cookies. So I'll save my praise.
The slander.
Yeah, girl, you just did such an incredible job. You should be just really proud of yourself. And you two just had such a great chemistry, and it was so fun to watch. I was just grinning the entire time. I loved, like you said, the higher production. You had the little interesting tidbits about the votes on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my God, the Paris segment from Austin. I lost it. That was so funny. Oh my God, so good. Such a good show.
The best part about that is I watched the raw footage from our good friend Austin Creed, and his kids are actually the little children that said, "I ate Paris's food and I got sick" at the end of his
Oh my goodness.
And watching him do multiple takes with them was so cute. Oh my God. It was a really funny day, but I'm glad we were able to pull that off, and then lining up Paris's host segment for the next award right after that was just chef's kiss.
It's almost like Khalif did that on purpose.
Yeah, that was so inspired for sure. But yeah, Grab Labs did an incredible job of integrating all that data. I didn't know that was going to be included in the show, so it was really cool seeing, because there was a lot of data, and I love that kind of stuff. I really love stats, so it was cool to see the participation, and hopefully we can get even more next year at the Spawnies.
Yes, well, bigger and better every year. That's the plan.
Yeah, kicking off Black History Month with a bang.
Yes, we are officially in February now. Welcome, everybody, to the second month of 2023. Can you believe it? We are already through January. It's done. It's over.
No.
Just fully in denial.
Absolutely.
It still feels like 2021, honestly.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about E3 here in a minute, and I was just thinking about E3, and the last E3 we went to was in 2019, but it feels like it was last year, but that was somehow 3 years ago now? Mm-hmm. And I don't know what's going on.
It'll be 4 years.
Oh, shit.
Fuck. See? Mm-hmm. None of us are okay.
Yeah,
just
no.
throw that out there.
No.
Yep.
Definitely not okay. The pandemic was too long, everybody. But Brianna mentioned it is the start of Black History Month, so hopefully y'all are out there supporting fantastic Black creators. You always tend to spotlight people on your Twitter thread. Are you doing that again this year?
I will be, yeah. So today, which is Wednesday when we're recording, I put out a call for people to jump on a Twitter thread that I posted and send me your little or lesser known Black History Month facts and figures. I want to learn more, right? Like most of my Black history was taught at the house because it wasn't part of my schooling growing up. So I highlighted Robert Smalls, who is a former U.S. representative, also a slave captain, and really great overall individual who led a lot of people to freedom. So yeah, let me know who or what you want to highlight for Black History Month, and I will be happily highlighting that on my feeds.
You love to see it. We also want to thank this month's Patreon producers, Chewy's Godson, Alex Rigopulos, Faris Attieh, Justin Foshee, and Punkdefied, and welcome to our Patreon community, Bobby. And we've got a lovely new podcast reviewer.
We do, from Blitz Eileen, who says, this is one of my regular podcasts. Blitz Eileen, I don't know why I'm giving you this voice. Apologies. Great podcast for getting up to speed with gaming news with funny hosts and consistently awesome guests. Love me some gaming podcasts, but it's nice to have women's voices consistently analyze the industry and in such a fun way, too. Oh, you're from Great Britain. I should have given you an accent.
Oh, no.
Breathe.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not.
Maybe you're okay that you didn't. Today's show is also brought to you by MeUndies and Shopify. And normally this is where I would say, I'm going to tell you about that later. And don't worry, I will tell you about them later. But we also wanted you guys to know that you might be hearing some additional ads on the show. In fact, maybe by the time you got to this message, you've already heard one. Much like Twitch and YouTube and other platforms out there where content exists, there's going to be ads inserted into the podcast that are just there. They just exist. And we just wanted to make you guys aware of it because obviously we do sponsors here at What's Good Games. They help support the show. But this other form of advertising will help support the show as well. And this is an awesome opportunity for me to remind you, if you hate hearing those ads of any kind, you can get the show ad-free. 100% no ads at patreon.com/whatsgoodgames for just $5 a month. It's like the cost of a Starbucks. You can't even get a Happy Meal for that price anymore. Trust me, I tried.
$1.25 an episode.
It's less than eggs.
Yeah.
It is less than a dozen eggs right now. That is, or just ever, because eggs are expensive. But just wanted to let y'all know. So thank you for supporting the show and for understanding that everything you hear that is on the podcast, help support the podcast. Now, let's get to some news. As Brittany alluded to, we got some information about what's happening at E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, later this year in June, in fact. So IGN reported on this exclusive story that the first physical event in 4 years, as a reminder, 4 years it's been, was supposed to be a triumphant return for the trade show, an opportunity to recapture some of the excitement of the past conventions, which historically have been major showcases for the games industry. However, it appears that it will be without 3 of its most important draws. Now, I'm going to stop right here and say this kind of feels a little disingenuous because PlayStation hasn't been at E3 for a while now. Like, they've had their main booth inside the show floor gone. Not as long as EA, but, you know, so saying PlayStation's not coming to E3 is like okay, well, that's not really that surprising. The surprising part here is that allegedly, according to this story, according to IGN sources, neither Xbox nor Nintendo will be at E3 as well. Now, last time that there was an E3, Xbox was at the Microsoft Theater in Chickern Court, which was at LA Live, this little outdoor shopping area that's right next to the Los Angeles Convention Center. So they were technically at E3, but not at E3, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you could go experience Xbox stuff with your E3 badge, but it just wasn't inside the convention hall. Now, Nintendo is the big one, though, because Nintendo has never not had a presence on the show floor at E3. They've obviously been doing directs for quite some time. Xbox even stole their direct name with their developer direct. That's right, I'm calling you out, Aaron. But them not having a booth, to me, is pretty shocking.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of also in the mindset of, like, what would they show? Like, in the sense of what would justify... Zelda's going to be out by then. And that's kind of like it as far as big Nintendo releases. So I think this just comes down to what we've talked about before is we've learned through the pandemic, publishers have learned during the pandemic that you do not have to have a major presence in order to sell copies of your game, in order to be successful, in order to get eyeballs on your presentation. Like, it certainly helps to be like adjacent to the event, which is why Microsoft will still be doing something around that the weekend before, right? It's pretty much what Phil Spencer has confirmed. Now, whether or not it's officially part of E3, another story. But I'm not surprised, and I think I'm just bummed. I'm just bummed is what this is. It's not surprising to me in the least, but I'm just sad that I think E3 and the future of it is just not gonna be good. It's just not gonna be good.
I don't want to draw that conclusion yet. My gut tells me this year is just an unlucky year for the ESA and ReedPop to be bringing E3 back, because as we've seen across several industries, but most notably for us as people who work in video games, there's been widespread cutbacks, layoffs, people losing their jobs, people withdrawing advertising dollars and marketing spends. We're going into a downturn economic time period. And I'm guessing that has a huge factor in why these companies are not going to be showing. I mean, we just got news about the major layoffs that happened at Microsoft, among many other tech companies that have announced tens of thousands, if not more, have been laid off and will be laid off in the coming months. I'm sure Nintendo is also feeling that financial pressure of the global markets right now. And they're looking at it going, well, if our big daddy, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, is coming out in May, does it make sense for us to spend literally millions of dollars to fly staff to the United States to set up a booth and to do an experience when we don't have anything else really major to show? They've already said that we should not expect new hardware, despite everybody chanting about Switch 2. They were pretty clear about it. So if something was to come later in the year, I'd be surprised. But it felt like they were like, stop thinking you're going to get new hardware. It's not happening in 2023. So then you're right, Brittany. It's like, what are they making that incredible spend on? I think it's probably wiser for them to save people's jobs than for them to have a booth at E3.
Agreed.
Sorry,
Agreed.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, without doing too much, postulation and trying to guess the future, right? I wonder what this means for everyone else who will still be going to E3, because someone is, right? Like, it's not that every publisher and developer has completely abandoned the concept. So my hope, at least, what my my rose-tinted glasses see is, other developers and maybe smaller titles in studios get an opportunity to have a bigger stage, like take up more room, have more lion's share of the news cycle. And of course, Xbox is going to do something around that time. We're going to hear about something to do with Starfield during that week. I'm sure of it. But I like to think of this as like a net positive for the widespread, like larger landscape of people who are making games. If we maybe distill a little bit of that energy across other entities and it's not always focused on these three, because if they have less to say and they have different places they want to say it, then that may be actually a net good.
And I wanted to be clear, like, I want E3 to succeed. In my perfect Brit world, it would go back to where it was back in the heyday, right? Where you had all those big conventions, you had PlayStation and Xbox right across the aisle from each other. Like, that was
like
always
2013 E3,
yeah, that
right?
was so great. But I mean, look at, I think it was in 2018, Xbox had Mixer on the show floor, and that was it, the main show floor. And then they did their stuff away. EA is like gone ski. We don't know what they're up to. And I mean, we've even kind of had conversations like, well, what does this mean for What's Good presents? Do we need to be there all of the days to cover everything? And you could look at that, well, maybe there's not as much to cover, so maybe we don't need to be there as often or as many days as we once were. And I'm just worried, like, it's expensive to go to E3. It's expensive to send people to go to E3, and you have to look at your ROI. And if you don't have those major first-party publisher titles there to cover and to get that ad revenue from the clicks, from the podcast revenue, whatever, you have to question it. And that's the reason I'm concerned. That said, like, I've played a lot of some of my favorite games. I think of Kingdom Come Deliverance. I played that at E3 for the first time, and that's an indie game, and it was one of my favorite things. And was it not for E3, I probably never would have played it. So it's not a question of, is E3 still important and will continue to remain important? I think it will. I'm just worried that this shift is going to, it's kind of going to be a slippery slope. And if it needs to become like the next PAX in a sense, that's okay too. I just hope it sticks around, and whatever needs to happen, like, please make it happen, ReedPop. Like, just please keep this baby afloat. I love E3 so much.
I'm with you that I love E3. I think if it's going to become another PAX, then it should just go away because we already have PAX. We don't need another PAX, especially when we have PAX West in August leading into the holiday marketing period. I really hope that this is just a temporary thing. I'm hoping that the publishers are going to see the value of E3 and come back, because otherwise it's like, do we need another one? And I think the thing we haven't talked about yet that is people are memeing already is Summer Games Fest.
Oh, yeah.
I saw lots of Jeff Keighley faces going around this week when that news came out of like, are these people showing at Summer Game Fest instead? And we don't know, right? We do know that Jeff Keighley, as a producer, has been in the gaming industry for multiple decades, has relationships with all of these people. Is it possible that instead of showing with the ESA, that they're showing with Summer Games Fest? Yes, it's not a non-zero chance, as my husband likes to say, but I think it's an unlikely chance that they would withdraw their relationship with the governing body that manages the relationships with Washington, meaning the legalities of working with the United States government in the video games business, which they have to maintain relationships with. I don't think that they would sever that to go show something at Jeff Keighley's show and then not show at E3. I think that would be like an unwise decision. And I don't see why any of those partners would do that, given their long-standing relationship with the ESA. I truly think this is hey, the C-suite said, we got to cut back. And if people are losing their jobs, it's not really a good look for us to be going to E3 and setting up shop and having a fun booth and kind of gallivanting around and partying when we have to lay off like 10,000 people, you know?
Yeah, we saw this trend starting back even way before the pandemic with Nintendo. They stopped doing their stuff. They always had a presence, but they stopped doing their press conferences. And EA, like we've said. So I think this year will be telling to see. And I'm very curious to know what the future of this is going to look like. But I think, again, a lot of these publishers have found, like, we don't have to make this huge major spend in order to see some positive ROI and to make a lot of fucking money.
Yep.
We will see.
All right. Well, let's continue on with the news. But first, a word from this week's sponsor.
This episode of What's Good Games is brought to you by MeUndies. You know that feeling you get when your crush texts you unexpectedly? Or when you make powerful, prolonged eye contact with that cute barista at your local coffee shop? That's how it feels wearing the new limited edition MeUndies Valentine's Day collection. Add some heat to your V-Day with MeUndies and get 25% off of your first purchase. Plus, get free standard shipping and free returns when you go to MeUndies.com/WGG. So we've talked about MeUndies quality on this show, I feel like, since the dawn of time. And I am now into organized TikTok. Organized talk, maybe, is what the cool kids call it. And I've been inspired.
I'm so excited for you.
I have gone on a mission. I am a new woman now. And one of those things involved cleaning out my underwear drawer, because I will admit I have not touched that thing in God knows how many years. But let me tell you, every time I found a piece or a pair of MeUndies bralettes or underwear, that was the first thing I kept. I put that in a very special pile to make sure I didn't mix it up with my old stuff, because the quality of that stuff, it keeps everything in place. It's so comfortable, and it doesn't give you a wedgie. It doesn't split you into like 3 parts. You know what I mean? So you have to like wear their underwear, feel it to believe it. And we've talked about their onesies all the time. Like, we don't need to keep praising, singing their praises, but we will. It's as good as we make it sound, because love is supposed to be fun. And whether you love someone else or just yourself, it's usually a good time. That's why MeUndies has super comfortable and cute undies, bralettes, loungewear, and more, and a flirty new prints for this V-Day season. Can confirm. Check out their website. Really, really cute stuff. Comfort is sexy, so get matching with someone you love, or just match with your favorite ball of fur for the cutest pics anyone has ever seen. Available in sizes extra small to 4X, they have something for every booty to fall in love with. MeUndies has a great offer for our listeners. Get 25% off of your first order and free U.S. shipping right to your door. To get 25% off of your first order, free U.S. shipping, and to chat with their incredible Cheek Squad about any questions or sizing concerns, go to MeUndies.com/WGG. That's MeUndies.com/WGG.
Continuing on with the news, we have some, I don't want to say sad, but a little bit unfortunate news. I mean, some of it is sad as we progress through these next couple of stories. But starting with the unfortunate and then going into the sad news, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is being delayed. I just want to start before we read the details from IGN with saying the fact that they came out so aggressive after announcing this game at the Game Awards and then being like, we're coming out in March. I was like, but why? Why are you doing that to yourself? So the game has been officially delayed to April 28th, was originally supposed to come out in March. The statement, according to IGN, is in order for the team to hit the Respawn quality bar, provide the team the time they need, and achieve the level of polish our fans deserve, we've added 6 crucial weeks to our release schedule, now to launch globally on April 28th.
I feel like this also benefits them from a release schedule perspective. I was looking, and before they were just going to be 1 week before Resident Evil 4 Remake, and maybe I'm a little biased here, but like that game was going to crush it and eat everything around it. Now it releases the same day as Dead Island 2, which is kind of interesting. I think in Dead Island 2, I feel like is the one that if they're going to make a move, it's going to be Dead Island 2, because I mean, let's just be real.
Now's the time to make that move.
Now's the time to make it's a good reason. It's a good reason to do it. And then you have 2 weeks before Zelda. So you got to get it in before Zelda. You don't put that bitch out after. So it's fine. I think this will be okay. But like you said, Andrew, it's that thing of like, don't announce a hard release date when it's because we just see this happen so often these days. But whatever, we're all numb to it anyway.
I get that from a marketing perspective, they have to put a signal post there or like a goal post at some point, like the production team. I'm sure all the producers on the game are like, listen, like we can't just keep like letting the game be in development forever. That's just not the way it works. Like we have to finish the game. And I get that, but a 6-week delay means they clearly ran into some bugs in the final QA pass that they're like, we could launch this game and maybe do a day 1 patch, but wouldn't it be better for all of us and the people buying this game if we don't do that, if we just fix it first? And we say,
it would be great.
Yes.
Thank you. Because wasn't that one of the main complaints about the last Jedi game is that it was pretty buggy? Only thing I remember about that one is the map sucked. I love the game, but the map sucked. Oh. But I know there were some problems with bugs and whatnot. So
that's very possible. I don't recall my time being buggy. I ran into a couple things like you do when you have any kind of open world situation, but I don't know. There's a certain amount of jank and bugs that I think we as gamers in 2023 come to expect from an open world experience. And then there's some that you're like, hey, this is not okay, bro. Like you should have delayed the game. Anywho, progressing into our next sad story. Rihanna, you want to take this one?
I will. Apex Legends Mobile is shutting down after less than a year. My little violin. Can you hear it? It's small, but it's there. This comes from Engadget. So Electronic Arts says it's shutting down Apex Legends Mobile less than a year after releasing the game on iOS and Android. The company is also abandoning Battlefield Mobile. I am, of course, less connected to Battlefield, but still another violin. And closing Industrial Toys, the studio behind that game. So they had already delisted Apex Mobile, which was the Apple iPhone Game of the Year in 2022.
And Google, too.
Yeah, it was doing great. I really liked it. And they're halting all in-game purchases with any real money. The game will still be playable for a few more months until the servers are switched off on May 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And they will not be refunding any real money purchases, but users can request refunds from the App Store or the iPlay Store. And, for Battlefield, it was released in beta tests back in November 2022, but they're now just ceasing development. So the quote that we have here is that as the industry has evolved and our strategy to create a deeply connected Battlefield ecosystem has taken shape, we decided to pivot from the current direction to best deliver on our vision for the franchise. So that's the statement from EA's website. pour one out for Apex Legends and Battlefield Mobile. Mobile gaming is great, y'all. Just give it a chance.
It's a head scratcher.
Good.
Yeah.
There's more from Andrew Wilson in that call about how it sounds like they're trying to bring Apex back in some capacity. It's not probably going to be the mobile game that you knew, but it sounds like they're trying to do something that's some sort of connected experience. But clearly, for whatever reason, bring in the game, because it was as direct as a translation over, right, Ree? As you can get.
Yeah. It's like playing the game. There are, of course, very specific differences for the mobile interface, but also different characters that you can play as in the PvP game. But yeah, it's Apex. It's what you get on the console.
Yeah. Well, maybe it'll come back in some other capacity someday.
I hope so. And I was going to give Battlefield Mobile probably a better fair shot than I gave other Battlefields, because I really love the mobile experience that EA has put together with Apex. But, we'll see in the future if there's something else there.
There's something here that's not being said, and I want to know what it is. Because this feels like a weird story to tell. Like, they're two of their biggest franchises in a category that's clearly succeeding on mobile. If you look at Fortnite and Call of Duty and how both of those games are doing, Apex is widely regarded as one of the best battle royales that's out there. Respawn, one of the best shooter studios. Obviously, the tumultuous development with Battlefield over the past 6 to 8 years has been, less than desired, but that franchise is still incredibly strong. It has a lot of very talented people at it. I don't understand this story. There's something missing. There's something missing here about why both of these games were shut down.
And so soon after release, too. Like, and proven. Like, it was doing really well. Like, you're doing great. And yeah.
So here's the three reasons why there are 3 reasons why he said. The one is the level of immersion and complexity to Apex gameplay, which is very much what Apex is about, and it didn't translate as quite as well as we had hoped on mobile devices. He said that while Apex Legends Mobile was engaging core players and had initially attracted new users, it didn't, quote, retain the more casual user at the rate we needed it to. And finally, he said that it was especially challenging mobile market with, quote, changing player personalities. So those are his 3 reasons.
If they wanted more people than they had, I understand. But, like,
it just wasn't making them enough money. Yeah. Let's call it and say what it is.
Yeah.
That's still great.
It's
great product.
It must be so expensive to maintain that they had to, as Brittany has been mentioning, ROI, which, by the way, is return on investment, to make sure that they can cover their costs. As I just talked about in the E3 story, widespread cuts are happening across the industry. So maybe this is EA's way of saying, hey, we got cuts coming, and this is something that we just can't keep going.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer, and, pour one out for those mobile versions. And another sad story. This one, I think, kind of hits me a little bit harder because I have close friends at Iron Galaxy as a studio, and I really enjoyed my time with Rumbleverse. So Iron Galaxy announced this week that their Brawler Royale, I should say, is going to be shutting down this month. And publisher Epic Games is confirming that the servers will be offline on February 28th, and that all players who spent money in or on Rumbleverse are eligible for a refund, with more details of the refund process set to be shared at a later date. But knowing how well Epic took care of everybody when they shut down Paragon, don't worry, if you spent money on Rumbleverse, you're gonna get your money back. This is a bummer. I had tweeted that I think Rumbleverse as a game was just too innovative for the mainstream Battle Royale audience, and I stand by that. Much like Andrew Wilson said about Apex Legend on mobile, that yes, our hardcore fans love it, but the casual player isn't really into this immersive experience that we're trying to provide and design. I would say when you design a Brawler Royale, a Battle Royale game around a fighting game metric and gameplay mechanic experience, it's not gonna hit well with most people because fighting games are tough to play. They take a lot of practice and they take, dedication to learn. And I think people sometimes just want to boot up Warzone and go drive around and shoot stuff.
Yeah.
Sad.
It's hard because you want to encourage this sort of innovation because I think it's really important for the industry. But like you said, it's kind of hard to pitch that. We're not familiar with that. And we see this a lot in this industry where someone has such a bomb idea and it's such a good idea and well-executed idea, but it's something different. It's not something that people are familiar with. And that's unfortunately such a curse, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Because, well, hopefully all those folks
go join Google Stadia and Xbox Connect in the games industry heaven in the sky for ideas that were too good but failed.
Yeah.
Hopefully it comes back, though. They kind of left the door open. If you read Adam Boyes' statement, he's one of the co-CEOs of Iron Galaxy. I had quote tweeted him. His statement kind of makes it seem like, hey, we put a lot of love into this concept and we really appreciate the people who fell in love with this game. We're not sending it out to pasture permanently, but for now it's going offline. And I'm like, maybe. Maybe
nice.
it'll come back in another form in some point. So fingers crossed. And some better news. Brittany, would you please tell us about this new series coming to Amazon?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing. So a Tomb Raider TV series is coming from Amazon. But before we talk about that, we have to talk about this piece of information that comes from fellowshipoffans.com. Andrea, have you heard of this website? I feel like if anyone here has, it's you.
Yes, I have heard of this website.
Okay, good. I have not. So, apparently they have correctly reported on the Rings of Power plot lines in the past. So they have street cred. Embracer Group leased their Tomb Raider rights to Amazon for a deal that they can exclusively reveal as being Fellowship of Fans. Approximately $600 million overall package, making it Amazon's second biggest commitment after purchasing the television rights to Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Now, how much did they pay for Tomb Raider? I'm trying to remember. I feel like they just made a profit.
So if that number is correct, it's definitely not just Tomb Raider. Remember that Embracer Group has over 200 IP that they own. Well over that, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. Just THQ Nordic, I think, had over 200 IP. And Embracer Group also bought part of the rights to the Tolkien estate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that within that deal, they bought additional story rights because, not to get too push us up my glasses into the weeds about the lore of what's happening in the Rings of Power show on Amazon, but they have very specific things that they can talk about in the Rings of Power Amazon show, IP-wise, and there's certain story and plot lines that they cannot develop and talk about. So if you're like, why are some key characters and plot lines missing from the Rings of Power? It's because Amazon's IP rights, intellectual property rights, don't extend to those. I had a very deep dive conversation about this with one Alexa Ray Correa, the de facto encyclopedia, quite literally, on everything in the Tolkien universe. So if that number is correct, my gut tells me that potentially part of the rights that the Embracer Group has, maybe they sold to Amazon so that they can then incorporate that. Because if you remember, maybe you don't because you don't care about the Rings of Power, Amazon committed to 5 seasons of the Rings of Power at a whopping price tag. So I would imagine that their showrunners are like, hey, can we get some more of the IP from the Tolkien estate? Because that would really help us out here.
Huh. Business, man. It's a whole ass thing.
But Tomb Raider sounds great. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. It does.
Yeah. And so this comes from The Hollywood Reporter. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is getting into action at Amazon. The Emmy-winning Fleabag grad is writing a TV series based on the popular video game turned action movie Tomb Raider. So apparently it's in the development stages and she will not be starring, but she will be writing. Anyway, I don't know who Phoebe is. I don't know what Fleabag is, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there.
No.
You two probably, I watch Judge Judy, and that's not as deep as it gets.
She doesn't watch any television,
No.
but
that's fine.
People out there know.
Fleabag is fantastic.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
she's
so
a
this
great
is
writer.
good. This is good
This
news.
is good news.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
That's all you need to know.
She's a genius. Her acting in Fleabag is phenomenal. But
Yes.
her as a behind the scenes, or what they call below the line, well, technically she's above the line, creative on the TV writing side is this is very good news for people who are interested in a Tomb Raider property that's going to succeed with a Lara Croft that's maybe not shitty. Not to say that, the performances have been shitty in the past, but they haven't been Oscar worthy. And that's just facts, everybody.
Don't come for her. Don't at her.
You can at me if you want to. Let's go. I will get into the comments with you about the performances of Tomb Raider. Bring it.
Oh, no.
Andrea needs an outlet to vent her stress. Please at her so she can feel better.
I mean, don't at me if you don't have good, valid points. You know, I mean, I guess you can at me and then I'll just ignore you. Just being real. Anyway, let's move on to what I hope will be everyone's favorite portion of the news this week. Sit back, relax, loosen the pants, unbutton your shirt a couple of buttons because it's time for Lil Britt's corner of Yakuza Lust and Love.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow. Great minds think alike. Yes, girl, yes. So we all need a little levity after that in case you missed it. And this is when I just carve out a section of the show and I just live my very best life. Andrea Henry, don't even know him. All right, so let's go. So this is a really fun little article that comes from Rock Paper Shotgun. So Yakuza's chief producer is surprised by Majima's unrelenting sex appeal. And this is just like the best thing I've read in so long. The best thing I've read in so long. So this is written from the perspective of Ed Thorne. So that's why it's going to be in the first person perspective. I went to Berlin not too long ago to sample the emotional highs and lows of Like a Dragon Ishin. And now this is the game that's coming out next month that is just now being localized and remade for the Western audience. So again, I had the chance to interview Ryogaku Toko Studios chief producer Hiroyuki Sakamoto, who revealed his favorite thing about the game, Goro Majima's undeniable sex appeal. Now, if you're like, who the hell is Goro Majima? He's daddy. He's my daddy from all the Yakuza series. He is this lovely dude right here that I have shown. This is Goromi. Yeah, I know. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I got like half naked pictures of him all around my office. Like, so this is just my best life right now. Okay. So Ed asked him what Sakamoto's favorite thing was about Like a Dragon Ishin, and this is fun. After a and a slight pause, he answered the question with a slight grin on his face. After a second or two, the translator cackled uncontrollably, and I too started laughing at him laughing. Eventually, everyone regained their composure, and Sakamoto's answer was unraveled. Quote, when we made the original game, we had decided to make it an all-star cast, but we really didn't know who to include in the game. Britt note, because there are tons of Yakuza characters. We were having trouble figuring it out, so I basically asked the fans who they liked the most and picked the popular ones. When we finished the popularity contest, we did the announcement of the results in Shinjuku in front of this place called Alta, a big gathering place. And I think we did the top 5 or top 10 people, and we had it on a big screen, and it was like a big announcement. And when the number one person came up, and it was Majima, there was just this huge horde of female fans that all screamed and screamed. And at that moment, we were like, wait a minute, girls like Majima this much? Is he that popular with the ladies? So there you have it. Sakamoto's favorite thing about Ishin is the fact that Majima is surprisingly popular with the ladies. This is just like the most wholesome and best thing, like I've said, I've read all week. So... And here's what I'm going to call, though. I'm going to call absolute bullshit because this is the studio, ladies, that has given us nothing but Majima crotch shots throughout the entire franchise.
I was going to say, this feels disingenuous. You called it wholesome, and I'd be like, is he gaslighting us right now? Because it feels like they know. They know.
They probably know, but it's probably like that wholesome, humble, like, tee-hee-hee. You know, but like, listen, these bastards know exactly what, and I say bastards endearingly because I love everybody on that team. It's all crotch shots all the time with Majima. He walks around shirtless, and it's all leather pants, all like Majima dick in your face. So they know exactly.
He has an eye patch?
Yeah. He's very handsome. In here, you can see his eye patch right there.
I'm looking at the pictures.
I know, he's great. Anyway, so I just thought this was really fun because, like, they know what they're doing. What did they think was going to happen? Of course, we're going to fall in love with this guy. Like, we did. So anyway, that makes me happy. Speaking of Ishin, I just wanted to briefly talk about this because I was invited to attend the preview event that happened not that long ago, but I got COVID, so I couldn't go. But I just want to briefly recap this little write-up from Luke from IGN, who says, I played the remake for 2 hours and was bracketed by a story mission where our main character, Sakamoto Ryoma, infiltrates a secretive paramilitary organization. As you do. Along the way, though, I ambled into karaoke bars, chicken racetrack circuits, dance halls, and gambling dens, each populated with the exact sort of lovable miscreants that give this series its color. Nothing has changed. The madcap side quests, intricate relationship building subsystems, and ridiculously fleshed out minigames are all in place. And then building on that of USA Today, there is a side story called Another Life, which Kiryu takes on farm sim duties in a quiet plot with Haruka, his little daughter. Ryoma can grow beans and other crops on a small farm and prepare the crops they grow for cooking via a Cooking Mama style minigame. Eventually, the duo can make and deliver food in order to get some for their trouble. And you can also come across a stray dog or cat in need of help, and you can take them in, treat them, and give them a place to stay. If I could drop my Shure microphone right now, I would. Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm very glad you can't, though. As the person who has to buy the replacement, don't drop it.
Thank you, patrons. Holy crap. This game is just, I am just so excited. And I think this could be a really good entry point for anyone who maybe has seen that there's, 7 Yakuza games, and you got 8, excuse me. You got Like a Dragon.
Like a Dragon.
Yep. And then you have the 2 Judgment games, but this is absolutely a standalone game. And while a lot of the characters are returning, they all have brand new names because it takes place in the 1860s or something like that. So if this sounds like a quirky ass good time and you want to get to know my husband, girl, Majima, just think about this game. Just contemplate playing it. Do it for me. Okay, thanks.
I'm very much here for the cooking sim part of it.
How cool is that?
That's cool.
This game is so wacky. The series is so wacky. And I'm just so happy that I get to play it.
I'm not even surprised because that's one of Yakuza's hallmarks is the library of weird and wacky mini games that exist across the entire franchise.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's literally nothing like it. And it is just one of those games you have to play to understand. So just keep this game on your radar, friends. Do it for me.
I'm sad that they took it out of Game Pass. I was I'll get to it, and then I didn't download it, and now it's gone.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the exact release date. I think it is February 21st.
Do they have a collection?
Ooh, they used to do a package deal on Play. I don't know if they have a collection anymore.
Feels like they should be making a collection that people can buy.
I think they had a remastered collection for maybe 3 and 4 and 5 back in the day. I don't know.
No. If there's 8 games, they need to be, 1.
Oh, like a whole ass? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Nah.
Wouldn't that be good?
That would be so good. I just love that it has its foothold now over here in the West. I think putting the game on Game Pass back in the day was just in the beginning of 2020 was just one of the best decisions they ever could have made. And obviously, Like a Dragon, everyone fell in love with that game. And I am just so happy. And I think this means more Yakuza games. We're getting another one this year. We know the man who changed his name, that weird Kingdom Hearts ass title. Anyway, now that I'm sufficiently turned on and aroused, we can move on from the podcast.
On that note, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what we've been playing, including Britt's thoughts on Persona that we didn't get to last week. We also will be talking about more Dreamlight Valley. It's going to happen, everybody. Stick with us, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It is the second segment of the What's Good Games podcast. Before we get to what we've been playing, I wanted to let you know we've got a message from one of our fantastic sponsors. This episode of What's Good Games is brought to you by Shopify. What's incredible to us about Shopify is that no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify is there to empower you with confidence and control to revolutionize your business and take your business to the next level. It's your turn to get serious about selling. So you should try Shopify today. It's the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can focus on successfully growing your business. You can be selling underwater basket weaving projects, or maybe you make custom enamel pins for your favorite Yakuza characters. Or perhaps you're just making t-shirts for your Twitch channel. Whatever you're selling or whatever you're making, Shopify can help you get there bigger and faster because Shopify covers every sales channel from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform. And it even lets you sell across social media marketplaces like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Definitely guilty on clicking on some of those ads from time to time. And they're packed with industry-leading tools to ready and ignite your growth. Shopify will give you complete control over your business and your brand without having to learn any new skills in design or coding because that's just going to take time away that you need to be focusing on your business. And thanks to 24/7 help and extensive business course libraries, Shopify is here to support your success every step of the way. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/what'sgood. All lowercase, everybody. That's important. Go to Shopify, shopify.com/what'sgood, all lowercase, to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.com/what'sgood. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the second segment, I'm very excited that once again, we get to shout out our elite patron names for the month. It feels like because of how we did the patrons with the holiday episodes that we haven't done this in a while. And we've got a lot of new patrons. So thank you to everybody who has joined us at patreon.com/what'sgoodgames. Again, you can get the show ad-free there among other amazing benefits like this, getting your name called out on the show, probably very wildly mispronounced, which is our hallmark specialty. So without further ado, let's thank some folks.
Thank you, Ty the Dude.
Guy on the Stick.
Robert Griffin.
Ryan Safel.
Mike Adamson.
Bill Rosas.
Erskine James.
Casual Blasphemy.
Trick 24.
Omega Buster.
Daniel Hull.
Eric Z.
Dracos 3442.
Chewy's Godson.
Excess Oddities.
Tara Bruno.
Trent Berry.
Sean I.
Brian R. Johnson.
Justin Foshee.
Patrick Landry.
Punkdefied.
Rob Leonard.
Patrick Higgins.
Kenneth Stimmel.
Trent Pennington.
Faris Attieh.
Jessica Bloom.
Patrick Weller.
Matthew Goddard.
Nuba Navarez.
Chris Wang.
Tyler McCall.
Adriana Rock Williams.
Shai Jackson Briss.
Gary Peck.
Dale Sun.
Robert F. Fremering.
Cara Milne.
Pete Shoemaker.
Wall of Bill.
Teresa Ennert.
Jason Demer.
Alex Rigopulos.
Andrew Cotton.
I'm sorry. You tripped me up because that's my mom, and you said the name in that way that everybody who doesn't know the last name says the name, and there's nothing wrong with it. It gave me pause. We'll talk about it later.
I think we're on Tickle Me Elmo Shell.
Tickle Me Elmo Shell. Elmo, we love you. You're great. Thank you.
Gio Corsi.
Poor Andrea. She doesn't know her. She's tripped. Okay. Ozzy Mejia.
Nicole Humphrey.
John Drake.
Travis Donkey.
Thank you so much to all of our wonderful patrons for supporting us here at What's Good Games. So many of you have been ride or die with us after all of these long years, and your support means the world to us. If you want to help support our voices in video games and support this show, patreon.com/what'sgoodgames is the place to do it. Let's talk about some video games. Brittany, which of your picks would you like to talk about first?
Oh, let me talk about We Were Here Forever. So this is a game that I had the pleasure of playing before launch. So thank you, Total Mayhem Games. So I'm sure you've heard of We Were Here before. Like, I think I've even talked about it on the show. So you have We Were Here, and then We Were Here Too, and then I think We Were Here Together, and then We Were Here Forever. So those are the four that are in this series. And this game actually came out on PC last May, and on Steam, it has 7,500 very positive reviews, and it just came out to console this week. So the We Were Here games are very unique in that they are built specifically for co-op. And you need 2 people to play, and you have to be communicating at all times. And this game works best if you're playing with someone who is not in the same room as you, which for most people, like, that makes a lot of sense. And usually you don't have side-by-side TVs in your living room because you're not obsessed like I am. But the good news is I got this game code right around the time that I had COVID. So I was upstairs quarantined, and Jason was downstairs living his best life away from me. So this was the perfect game for us to play together. And what I love about it is that it's kind of like an escape room, but the 2 of you have to work together, obviously, to like solve puzzles. So let's say I'm playing a game with 3, and we will both like have our screens in front of us, and we're obviously in constant communication. It does have a walkie-talkie feature that you can use if you're playing with, I think, a stranger. But for me, it was just easier to play it over Xbox Party Chat. But anyway, so like Ree would be like, okay, so I am in a room and I see 3 switches in front of me, and they are yellow, green, and blue. And above each switch is a certain symbol. Does that mean anything to you? And then on my screen, I would look around and be like, okay, actually, yeah, I have this book here which depicts a certain order of things, and I think this is the order you have to play yours in. And then it's just kind of that back and forth communication throughout the entire game. And you never know what's going to be a clue. And so it's always kind of fun to kind of put 2 and 2 together. There were some puzzles, though, I would say. Maybe it was because I had COVID brain that were... No, because Jason didn't have COVID. So, like, I can't blame it on that. They were just hard. They were just straight up, required a lot of mental fortitude. And at the end of the workday for him and me having COVID, it was just sometimes we weren't in the mood to figure it out. So there is an in-game hint system that's built in, which is lovely. Or, since this game has been on Steam since May, if you get stuck, you can just pull up a handy-dandy guide and, help cheese your way through it, if you will. But, again, this is one of my favorite co-op series, so if you've never played a We Were Here game before, I would absolutely recommend it. I think there's about 8 to 10 hours of gameplay in this one, and all the puzzles feel super unique, super different, and they're lots of variety, so it never feels like you're doing the same thing over again. There are a lot of times where you're playing like side by side, and so maybe you're going up a ski lift together that I was like, why is this ski lift taking like 4 minutes to get from point A to point B? This is so boring. And then I'm like, wait, no, I'm with someone right now. We should be like talking and communicating, like hanging out. And like, I was like, oh yeah, you're just it just felt like a super long loading screen, but there was purpose to it, So yeah, I would just say like We Were Here forever. It's a very, very good co-op game. Lots of positive reviews. We've had a really good time with it. Just make sure you can communicate with someone in a healthy way. Oh. And maybe, because there's going to be times when you're frustrated because you're looking at something and you need the solution to something, but it's hard to, and they make it this way where they make something purposefully hard to describe. You're like, I'm looking at an ostrich with like a donkey head, and that kind of looks like a dick over there, and that looks like a pair of tits. And it's like, you just have to find the most colorful language to describe, what you're looking at. And if you can find someone that picks up what you're putting down, like a partner or a best friend, you're going to have an easier time. But yeah, just lots of healthy communication and lots of patience, I would recommend. But it's a very fun co-op game, so definitely recommend checking that out.
It sounds like pretty similar to some Destiny raid moments we've had where you're just trying to communicate what symbol you're looking at, and somebody calls out, it's an ostrich. You're like, what?
I mean, it sounds like Brittany's call-outs are a little bit more graphic than in the What's Good Guardians clan, which is probably for the best. But yes, sometimes when you're trying to communicate what symbols look like, it can get colorful.
Low-hanging fruit. Yeah, do I want to describe something that looks like an oval with 2 circles, or is it easier just to use slang for what? It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully Jason's mind thinks like mine, so it works out pretty well that way.
So, Britt, with Valentine's Day coming up here, would you recommend this for someone with one of their partners, or would you say it's be careful in that situation because of the difficulty?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a long distance relationship and the 2 of you have to be apart anyway, like, yeah, sure. But, ideally on Valentine's Day, you'll spend it next to you. And you can play this game next to someone, but you can look at each other's screens, and that kind of defeats the purpose. But I would say this is a good game on building communication skills. Like, so if you want to, level up your relationship, if you can withstand this game, you got this. You found the one. But no, it is a fun game to play together. But like, it was perfect for COVID, obviously, because we were separate anyway. But, lately we've been wanting to do some couch co-op stuff so we can actually be like in the same room as each other. So just something a hurdle that you might have to cross. All right. So I also had the opportunity to play Persona 3, the remaster on the Switch. Actually, I got this code before we went on our What's Good holiday break, or maybe it was during the holiday break, which I was so appreciative of because that was a long game. I think I clocked in around 80 hours or so. So Persona 3, it's on all the platforms, but I played on Switch. This is a remaster of Persona 3 Portable, which released in 2010. And so you had the original Persona 3, which released, I think, on PlayStation 2, and then you had Persona 3 FES, which I think was on PS2 and PS3, and then you have Persona 3 Portable. So it can get very confusing, but this was my first time playing Persona 3. I love Persona 4, love Persona 5, so I was really excited to have an opportunity to hop in to 3 on my Switch. So this game, the TLDR is that you are a transfer student, and you can choose to whether play as a male or female character. And you are in this new town, and every night there is this weird phenomenon called the dark hour. And everyone around you suddenly turns into coffins, and it's this hour that takes place between right after midnight and the next day. And there's only a select few of you that can remain awake during that time. And most of you have personas. And then there are these weird monsters called shadows, which is obviously almost in every Persona game. And it's up to you and your high school friends to figure out what the heck is going on. And you have your, like I said, your personas, which are these think of these like, they're like inner manifestations of one's true self. And your teammates all have their one persona, but you as the main character have the ability to wield multiple personas. And I think, there's probably a few hundred of them in the game. And you earn new personas by battling. And then at the end of that, sometimes this is going to get weird. You're going to trigger something called shuffle time. And then you got to pick the right card. And then you have a new persona. And then you can meld the cards together. Fuse the cards is the right word, to create new personas. So it kind of has that fun, addicting value to it. So if anyone's played a Persona game before, like this is all going to sound very, very familiar to you. But the thing I wanted to really talk about with Persona 3 Portable, the portable version in particular, because the FES and the original game were a little bit different. This plays much more like a visual novel than it does an exploration game, in the sense that the only environment that you'll be able to walk and run around in a 3D manner is going to be when you're in a place called, I think it's pronounced Tartarus. I might be butchering that, but essentially it's your high school that morphs into this huge labyrinth during the dark hour, full of shadows, and there's hundreds of levels. I feel like it's about hundreds of levels, and you fight shadows and collect treasure and just advance higher and higher and higher. You fight bosses along the way. Every other location other than that, it's essentially a point and click visual novel. So, you'll be in the high school and you move your little cursor over. And this, I think, was done because, again, this is a remaster of the Portable game, which came out on the PSP, I think it was. Yeah. So it makes sense from that standpoint, but it does feel a little weird when you're not used to it. Because you're like, why am I doing this when I'm playing on this next gen console? It's because that's why it came from that platform back in the day. So with that said, like that turned me off at first, but I was quickly enamored with these characters, their stories of loss and but yet triumph, and they're all so incredibly well written. And I played with the Japanese voice acting. You can play in English. The audio tracks do sound a little old and they get kind of poppy, but again, I think it's because it's an older game. So the characters and the story itself is absolutely worth playing if you're a fan of the Persona E formula. If you're not really a fan of that, if you're even more into typical JRPGs, like just check. It's on Game Pass, right? So if you can check it out on Game Pass, I think that's the perfect platform for this. And I will say too, there are no cutscenes in this game. It's all just different animated character images. So, there's like a sad animation, like a happy animation. By animation, I mean it's just a still. But there's all the cutscenes that were in the original Persona game have been omitted from this version. So, like, just kind of know what you're getting into. But I loved this story. I love these
That's kind of weird, though, right? Like, why did they do that?
They did it because, again, this was on the PSP back in the day, and it was probably a memory issue or something. I don't really know.
It's almost like PlayStation's original architecture was impossible to upgrade, which is why backwards compatibility just is not a thing.
Hey! She's not wrong. She's not wrong. Yeah, so anyway, like the TLDR is just know you're getting more of a visual novel than anything, although there is lots of fun gameplay, and you do get to run around in that dungeon area I mentioned before. And there's like no cutscenes, which is a shame because the cutscenes are really good. You can go on YouTube and watch them. There's an animated series based off of the game. Depending if you play male or female, you'll get different relationships and some different dialogue. It's a really, really good game. I had a blast with it. I'm so happy I took the time to play it. I couldn't put it down once I started it. Just again, know what you're getting into. Make sure this is something that you think you'll enjoy. If you like Persona, go for it. You're going to love it. Just know, again, visual novel. Really fun game, though. I had a really good time. I loved it. One of my favorite. It's probably like, I think I liked this one more than Persona 5. So I think Persona, yeah. And I think, not that there's anything wrong with Persona 5, but for some reason, like these characters, and they're so well written again, and they have like such interesting backstories, and each one goes through personal growth. And there's so many emotional, tragic moments, but there's these moments of levity too. It's just really, really well done. One of the better stories in a video game. So, Persona 3.
I'm glad that you got your Brit-ass Brit game out of the way. Because I feel like Dreamlight Valley would be a Brit-ass Brit game, knowing that...
I'm intentionally staying away from that.
I understand, and I feel like I should have, for my own personal sanity and now potentially my marriage, stayed away. So this is your weekly reminder to take a shot. We're talking about Dreamlight Valley, a game from Gameloft and, of course, Disney Inc. My husband works on this game, which he tweeted a reminder to everybody about. He's like, this is my worst nightmare. My wife is tweeting about a game that I work on, and she has thoughts. I was like, this is not the first time this has happened, but welcome to our relationship. So I don't want to like belabor it, but you know, just like with Animal Crossing New Horizons, a game that I absolutely adored, sunk hundreds and hundreds of hours into, I've just got some, as I put it, constructive feedback that I would like to pass along while the game is in early access. And I know that they have an official Discord and all that, and I'm not the first person who has said this, but I had tweeted about the iron ingot drop rates because now I decided to get to I'm trying not to get too in the weeds of this conversation.
I should have guessed.
Listen, here's the thing. I want my island to look cute. Part of a life sim like this game is trying to be is the decorating and the customization process. Obviously, they wouldn't sell all these things in Scrooge's shop if they didn't want you to buy them and then place them in your world. I mean, for crying out loud, Scrooge's whole friendship quest line is about placing items in the world. And did we all just randomly place like 10 bogus items and then pick them back up just to like check off the quest? Of course we did. But
no,
now,
I left them. It looks like garbage.
Do you just left all the trash on each of the biomes?
Oh, it's so great.
But like I love, and I have said, I love that this game gives so much gameplay. There's a ton of quests to do, a ton of character interaction, lots of great moments to happen with these wonderful characters from the Disney IP. But me being me is like, I hate that I'm walking around my trash island. I say island, it's a valley. It's I don't know what do you want to call it?
Animal Crossing.
And I want it to look nice. It's got like helter-skelter like pathways and nothing is lined up right. There's all these rocks and trees in the way. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a break from my quests and I'm going to spend a dedicated amount of time like actually decorating on my section of, you know, Dreamlight Valley. And once I started down this path, it became clear to me very quickly that they have not yet optimized for people like me who want to just like go ham decorating and being creative. And I went to the Reddit, you know, as I do, longstanding ACNH Reddit member, and I went to the Dreamlight Valley Reddit to be like, I need some inspiration from people more creative than me who have more time than I do. And I found some, but then when I went to try to implement some of these great ideas, I was immediately roadblocked by the crazy amount of resources that you need to grind for in order to get basic items. And that's where my frustration comes in.
That's fair.
Like, you as a game company have to, decide how you're going to balance your in-game economy. And what my big concern is that we've talked about before is we don't know what it's going to be when this game goes free to play. It's currently in paid early access. They plan to take it free to play. They've said that. It's like, well, what are they going to make people pay for? And I hope it's not these basic things. I hope it's the more expensive, exclusive, customizable, or like cosmetic items that you get in Scrooge's shop, like a fancy dress that's from like Belle's universe, or it's like a cool sweater from Encanto, or from, Wreck-It Ralph, or wherever, right? Like that kind of stuff feels like it should be behind like a for-pay paywall, because the studio has to get paid to make this stuff, because Disney ain't free, is what I've been told from my husband. But
Disney ain't free.
Disney ain't free. You want to work with Disney? It's going to cost somebody. Somebody has to pay. Who that person is up to the contract negotiation. But when it comes to Dreamlight Valley and the type of gameplay that they've instilled, it feels bad, man, when they make things like pathways. So if I want to make like a sidewalk in my valley that isn't just like random grass, but if I want to put like down bricks to make a path to go between like Goofy's house and Mickey's house, I have to craft that with resources that I have to mine. And that sucks because the amount of resources it takes to make one square of pathway is outrageous. It's outrageous how much it takes. I looked at some of the cooler pathways. Like I've unlocked like an opal and gemstone path, like a literal like golden brick road path, and it's literally one freaking gold ingot per square to do the golden brick road. And I'm like, who the fuck is gonna make a golden brick road then? Because it takes like 3 pieces of gold ore to make a single gold ingot. And you know how long it takes to mine all of the fucking mining spots on the valley to get that many gold ores to make a gold ingot? I'm like, who balanced that? Like, that's broken. And so I tweeted about how broken I think it is with the iron ingots in particular, because everything cool to craft in the valley requires iron ingots, and some of the endgame quest lines require like 200 iron ingots, which requires hours of mining spots to get iron ore. And anyway, like I'm definitely down in the weeds now.
No, I can empathize because I get it. I understand. I love my little farming sim games too, and sometimes certain quests require you to make certain things, and if it takes you 500 tries to get the thing you need, it can be very frustrating. Yeah. I was giggling because I'm looking at your tweet, and then I see that Felicia Day chipped in, and she was like, thank you, also emeralds. And then there is John, poor John Drake, like 4 like responses down, he's like, this is my nightmare. And then at the end,
that's what they wanted, right? Is this not what they wanted? Feedback?
Yeah. And then he sees the lead producer.
I didn't tell him to do that. He did that on his own volition.
It says, please save my marriage. But this is what you need to do, though. Like, this is good. This is a good thing. And I'm with you. I feel like this would be a really crappy thing for them to monetize if this is how they plan on making their money. Hopefully, like you said, it's just cosmetics and it should just maybe pre-made paths. But then there's an incentive there to make them kind of hard to get anyway. So just stick to cosmetics.
Yeah, I think that, and I was talking with some people in my feed about how it's just stifles creativity. And I think that's what gave Animal Crossing such a robust community for so many years, and why that game sold over 40 million copies, because word of mouth spread of like, this game is fun and you can do things with your friends and you can swap designs. And there's this incredible community where you can like download free designs from people in the community. And it didn't feel like it was gate kept by microtransactions. And that's my fear of Dreamlight Valley, is that it's going to be free to play. And because of that, they have to make money off of it somehow. And how are they going to do it? And right now it just feels egregious. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to want to pay a bunch of money just so I can put down pathways. It feels like that just doesn't feel good. Like, yeah, sure. Like, put the cool cosmetics, like put Mirabelle's dress behind a paywall, make it like a $5 buy or whatever. Sure, that makes sense to me. But things like if you want to put up a fence, you have to mine resources for literally hours. I have to spend like 7 to 8 hours mining resources to build like a 20-piece fence. Like that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
It seems broken. So that's all. I know it's early access. They're still balancing. Obviously, I care enough about it that I'm complaining about it on the show, which means that I love it because I don't rant about things that I don't care about. You guys know this.
I'm invested in Ingot Gate is what we'll call this.
Ingot Gate. I like it.
Ingot Gate. There we go. That's what we'll call it. And I'm very anxiously looking forward to an update.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ray, did you have anything to add to my rant?
No, you covered it all. Yeah, we need more. We need more materials. That's it.
There's just being a fantastic friend that she is in the background. Like, yeah, more materials. Yeah, I love you.
I mean, it's true. It takes forever to build anything. It sucks. Yeah. That's why I gave up and I just left trash all over my valley.
We don't want trash valleys. We want beautiful Disney-esque valleys.
That's what the game is driving me towards. I'm just following their systems. Sorry.
Love it.
Don't make me make souffle from now until the end of time, just so I have money to buy a freaking pair of pants, okay?
So many fucking souffles. And when you accidentally buy like one fewer egg than all the other ingredients, you're like, God damn it.
I feel like, Ray, you've always had problems with eggs in games. I remember in Animal Crossing, you had a thing with the eggs.
Egg day.
Oh, that's coming up. That's coming up.
It overlapped with the freaking cherry blossom event, and I'm still not over it. And I would like to move on, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we shall move on. We do want to spend a little bit of this episode talking about this wonderful HBO series for The Last of Us. Consider this your official warning for spoilers. If you are not caught up on the Last of Us series on HBO, you might want to not listen to the next segment of the show because we're going to talk about how we feel about it. And if you've played the games, we're spoiling nothing for you. But if you plan to watch the show, this, I think, is the first episode where they have departed from where the narrative was in the game and to what they decided to do in the show. So you have officially been warned. Spoiler warning done. Who cried? We all cried, right?
I cried. Almost the whole episode.
Oh my gosh. This episode was so good. But also, we didn't talk about episode 2 because it was, last week. But I also liked episode 2 but I thought online it was a little divisive.
What was divisive? Sorry, Brittany.
No, you're fine. I was just going to give a shout out to the beginning of episode 2 where they have that. Were they in Indonesia? Was that?
Yeah, Jakarta.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was. I love how they started the series, right, with that interview on stage. And then they had that little segment at the beginning of the second episode. I just love how they're also rooting this in as much science as possible, because it is kind of a terrifying thought when you watch this. You're like, oh crap, like they're not just pulling this stuff out of their ass. And if you watch every episode until the very end, they go into, again, like the research they've done and the things they took into consideration. And it was eerie. That part of it was eerie. But anyway, let's just talk about episode 3, because I feel like that's the one that I have the most to say about.
Yes.
And holy crap. I think that was one, and again, I don't watch a lot of TV, so take my opinion with a grain of salt, but I think that was one of the best episodes of TV I've seen. Like, that was just from beginning, middle to end, it was beautiful. And there's part of me that's like, okay, so we just took an entire episode and told a love story between two men. And at first, I'm like, how does this build upon the series? Like, how does this benefit the story between Joel and Ellie? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, it's world building is what it is. And it really sets the tone for, and it gives you a different perspective of two survivors and what the world was like for them to live in. And so when Joel does get to Bill and Frank's house and they are gone, and there is that note there, us knowing what they went through and Joel reading that note and now kind of feeling like this they wanted me to protect Tess. Tess is no longer here. All I have is Ellie. I really I think how that impacted him as a character, because obviously that's not how it went down in the game. So anyway, that's my TLDR thoughts, and I'd love to hear your guys' as well, but I just loved it. It was just such a beautiful story.
So I want to give a big shout out to, not that they're listening or will ever listen to this podcast, but to Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, the two lead actors in this episode playing Bill and Frank. We already knew that Nick Offerman was going to be playing Bill, but I think Murray Bartlett's role as Frank was a real turn for me in a very positive way, because obviously in the games, we never get to meet Frank. For all we know, Frank is a giant a-hole, and Bill actually hates him. And I think that these two actors played this episode so wonderfully, and it saddens me that there are people out there who are making it their mission to take this episode down for whatever reason they've decided to cook up in their mind, whether they think it's a ploy at positive LGBTQ representation, whether they think it's, some kind of woke agenda, even though the kind of hilarity of, as you mentioned, of this was in the original game. If you found it, that they had this relationship. If you missed it, that's on you, bro.
Oh yeah.
But it saddens me that what I think is such a beautiful love story is being taken offline or is being taken to task by people who are just mad about it. And I'm like, are you mad because you don't have a Frank in your life and a Bill in your life? Is that what you're mad about? Because that was my takeaway when I was sobbing at the end of the episode. And they were it was more happy tears, I think, than sad tears. Because I think when I first started seeing people tweet about oh my gosh, episode 3 made me cry, I was like, oh no, does something really tragic and gross happen? I'm worried. And then instead it was, don't we all wish we could have that ending? It reminded me of how hard I cried at the end of The Notebook, of all fucking things. Just they were holding each other at the end. It's of a life well lived and somebody that you care about and you don't want to go without them. And so they go together. And I'm just it was awful and great at the same time.
It was. And just for some context, what we know about Frank from the game is that he was, I think, bitten by a bunch of infected. And on his way back, instead of going to Bill's, he hung himself. And you eventually do find his corpse. And it's, I guess a suicide note is what you would call it. And in that note, he does say how he hates Bill's guts and he didn't like the way he managed the town. And that is all we know about the Bill and Frank relationship. But yes, Bill does call Frank his partner. And if you want to be oh, partner, you know what he meant when he said partner. Why are these people acting so oblivious? And Ellie is gay. That's the thing. Everyone's oh, game. Ellie is gay. And she's she's the main character here. I don't know. People are just fucking weird. Internet was a mistake.
Yes. I mean, criticisms aside, whether or not you like that gay people survive the apocalypse, it is such an incredible love story. Granted, it has some really, really great commentary in contrast to Joel and Tess's relationship and the fact that he, in front of Bill, is not even able to bring himself to acknowledge her as his partner. He's assumedly lost the mother of his child. He's lost his child. Loss is hard for Joel, and so attaching himself to people is clearly not something he's interested in doing. But regardless, he is attached to Tess, right? And Bill picks up on that. Of course, Joel calls out oh, this is your lives. You and Frank are a unit. You have somebody you care about too. They're very much the same, right? They draw parallels between the two characters as soon as they meet. And it's a really hilarious scene when they're just full of tension and not trusting each other fully, but are clearly, coming from the same place. They want to protect what they've reluctantly come to love and cherish. And I think one of the best moments for me is when you see at the end of the episode when Ellie and Joel come to the house and Ellie finds the note and she's reading through it and she gets to the part where Bill is referencing use whatever you can find here to protect, Tess. He writes the name down and Ellie doesn't read it out loud. You just see Joel reading it when he takes the letter from her and he becomes so overwhelmed with emotion. This is the first time since we saw the death of Sarah that we've seen him that emotional, and he has to leave the house. He's just, I can't even deal with it. Like he's just so moved and so saddened and heartbroken because assumedly these are his only real friends left, right? First of all. And second of all, he realizes once again what he's just lost like hours ago, right? Like keeping in mind that this isn't 10 years gap between when we saw Tess's unfortunate end and when they come to the house. This is the same day. So it's just really, it's so touching. I'm trying not to get emotional. It's very touching. On top of seeing this beautiful love story, we saw this incredible story of loss right after that. And he immediately looks to Ellie and says, okay, well, like, let's go. Let's make a car battery and get out of here. Like, I'm in it. Like, this is the moment where he commits to the journey. And it was just such a great way to tell that story in parallel. And I just want to call out a couple of things. But number one, shout out to Peter Hoare, the person who directed this episode. He's done some incredible things. He did the Netflix Daredevil series. He did, Iron Fist as well, but also the Umbrella Academy and Cloak and Dagger and Altered Carbon and some things that I truly, truly love. And the style of this episode was just it was just dripping with authenticity and heart. And even down to when you see Bill playing the piano and he turns to Frank and you're not sure if that's a true love connection or if they're just interested in people or if they're just like, oh, wow, I found another human being who knows this song. What are the odds of that? And Frank sheds a tear. Like there's just so many really touching moments within the love story that don't even have anything to do with their relationship. And it's
the
really
strawberry scene.
Okay, so I have a note about this strawberry scene too. Besides the fact that it's just brilliant. Like, you can even tell they were just arguing because Frank is like, I just sold a gun. It's one of the small ones. I don't care. Like, Bill is clearly pissed off. Like, what did you give away? Resource management. And you can see they're not perfect, right? And no two people are. But a note about the strawberries in particular, a friend of mine, Andrew Kuhar on Twitter, wrote about this. He said, as a gardener who's grown strawberries, they actually have something in common with the themes of connection being explored through fungi or mycelium. Strawberries will take over your entire yard if unchecked. They produce runners that grow laterally, creating new plants. And they won't produce fruit at the size that they were eating them in the show until the second year of bearing fruit. So Frank has spent years making the strawberry patch for Bill. And the fact that when he sees it, like Bill immediately drops the argument. He's like, okay, this is amazing. And he just laughs. And Frank pulls him so far out of that shell that he has clearly dug himself in for decades in order to get to this point where he could survive the apocalypse. And he becomes the reason for Bill to keep surviving and living instead of just existing. And the line, oh my God, you were my purpose. Like, come the fuck on, man.
Yeah.
My God.
It was so sweet. The joy on their faces when they bit into those strawberries. It was just such a pure moment. And at the end, Neil Druckmann said, we have like a policy or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. Essentially, if it's not going to be better than the original game, we're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And this was better because in the original game, I remember now, Bill was actually, Frank was actually leaving Bill. Like, he was like, I'm gone. Yeah, that's what it was, right? He was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't like the way you run shit. And I'm taking stuff and I'm going. But in this, it was just such a better fucking, I want this as like a side DLC. Like, just patch the whole series. Can we just patch the whole series and make this canon? Please.
Just let me be the flower gardener and play as Frank for 10 years.
Oh, God, it was so good.
So good.
And if you're not watching the, inside the episode after the credits roll, it's such an amazing opportunity to hear from Neil Druckmann about where he as a creator and obviously like the head of Naughty Dog interacts with the HBO showrunner and like the choices that they make and why they choose to make different choices in the show versus what was in the game. And I think as somebody who's a fan of Naughty Dog and obviously who absolutely respects them and their creative process, it's really interesting to hear like the choices that they have to make because a lot of people like take to the internet forums to talk about like, I'm mad about this choice, but it's like, well, did you listen to the explanation about why they made the choice? Because they've been doing a good job about explaining like why they've made some of these big choices. And Neil's explanation for this episode was like, this storyline was better. And he was like, this was just a better storyline. Why does Bill need to be this like angry guy all the time when he can find somebody that sees him for what he is and loves him for what he is. And it's like, we all just want that, you know? And I think it's such a, like you said, it's a beautiful love story that was wonderfully acted and directed. And you know what? If you're mad about it, maybe your life is so good that you can be mad about this. Maybe you should take a look at your life and go, I should be grateful maybe that my life is so good that I can be that mad about this episode of fucking television.
I'll also say it was a welcome moment to have, like, of course there's not as much killing in the show as there is in the game because it would make you feel like, wow, these are psychos. But
yes,
people don't do that. But what was really great at this point in the series where, you know, it's episode 3, we've seen the aftermath of some shootouts, but we haven't really had one yet, honestly. And really just establishing the groundwork for like this story. Yes, there is a pandemic, there are monsters, but it's about the people who are left, right? It's about The Last of Us. It's not going to be a creep show. You're of course we'll have some of those moments and there'll be some jump scares and fights, but it's really about what do you do with life after everything we know that we think is important is gone. And it's just showing you like the one thing that there is still to live for sure is love, which is like one of the main themes of the whole game. And like, do you protect yourself from love or do you just give yourself up to it and fuck the rest of the world?
It's so good. Can't wait to see more. I am wanting, you know, some good action. And like the makeup so far in this series has been ridiculous. The way that they have recreated the infected, because there's like this short moment with Ellie and how they're like, also it's like, it's wild how they have so wonderfully recreated shots from the game. Like they walked into this store to do some like scavenging where Joel is going after his stash that's hidden. And I was like, I remember like walking into that environment in the game, you know, and then Ellie like opens this trap door and like goes down there and she like finds this infected that's clearly like immobile, and she does like weirdly like slice it up a little bit before she stabs it. But the makeup is incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's also really sweet to see Ellie's innocence because she's obviously a very hardened character in the show, maybe even a little bit more so than the game. But she's like, you got to go in the sky and like looking at the inside of a truck. They changed this from
like
the game. It's like a
spaceship.
But yeah, she's like, it's like a spaceship. It was just really sweet and endearing. And I felt like it was a nice contrast to what we've seen so far of the character who's just very tough and sour, just very sassy. But yeah, that was sweet. And even after seeing, you know, that horror story of like the mass grave and that people immediately just turn to shit, as we can imagine might happen. It was great to just see that she still finds joy and wonder in the world.
But now do we all have to become preppers is the question.
Dude. Well, that's what there was a story out. I forget where it was, but something about like there is a specific fungus that is now like surviving higher temperatures and everyone's like, oh God, no, it's happening.
Oh, Lord.
No, I didn't see that. Don't tell me. I want to remain ignorant until I die.
Yeah,
well,
same.
We'll just all eat pancakes every day so that it takes us out first.
Sure. That sounds great. Pancakes every day until death does not sound like a bad way to go.
No, it does not.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I love that we get to do this. You know, we can't spend every week talking about it, though we could. Maybe we just make a second show about it. But if you guys want to hear more of our thoughts on The Last of Us and you're watching it, let us know in the comments. Spoiler-free comments, of course. You know, like keep it, you know, safe for everybody. Tweet to us. You can always email us at contact@whatsgoodgames.com. Let us know if you guys want to hear more, if you're interested in the conversation. And maybe when the season's over, we can do like a full dedicated episode.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it could be great. And on that note, that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you once again to all of our elite patrons. If you guys want to get the show ad-free, patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. If you don't have a couple dollars to throw our way, support us by leaving us a 5-star review, as Brittany highlights at the top of every episode on your podcast platform of choice. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on TikTok. I finally made our TikTok account. I thought I had one. Turns out we didn't, but now we do. At What's Good Games, everybody. everybody.
Hey.
We're going to start trying to post some videos there and on Instagram, what's good _games or what's good games official on Instagram. And hopefully you can support us by interacting with us and, being part of our community online instead of giving us a couple dollars. Every little bit helps. We love y'all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend or your week whenever you are listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.